Previously, we had you consider phone home. Is there some form of extraterrestrial life in the cosmos? Good old shout out to E.T. there. Page 2 in the astronomy notebook. The old dot to dot. If it's been a while for you, you can actually connect the dots on here. Some dot to dots are more challenging than others. This one is particularly puzzling, and I wonder what that can be. How about this? A night sky jigsaw puzzle, 10,000 pieces. I have a niece who loves puzzles, absolutely superb at solving puzzles. I love to send her various puzzles of challenge levels. One time sent her a puzzle that claimed to have the world's smallest pieces. You needed tweezers to solve. She solved that in about 60 seconds flat. And the most successful puzzle on my end that I sent was the Finding Nemo puzzle. And my niece will send me photos of the progression of the puzzle. And this was the last photo I received of the Finding Nemo puzzle. So I text my other niece and asked, what's the progress like on the Finding Nemo puzzle? It's taken longer than usual for completion. And she sent me this puzzle picture showing me that this was the last time she saw it before it got put back in the box and back into the shelf. So if you are looking for a certifiably insane puzzle, this would be one I'd recommend, the Finding Nemo puzzle. But hey, we found Dory. And of course, puzzles are always up for interpretation into how well they've been solved. Today's astronomy puzzle will be matching these 12 images, A through L at the top of the page, with 12 dot pictures at the bottom of the page. And it's a 1-to-1 match. So if you think letter D looks very similar to 6, you would write a little D somewhere in 6. I always look forward to see what the guesses will be for item 3, where you have 3 whole whopping dots to work with. So pause the video as you make your decisions of which of these 12 images match the following 12 items. And it's a 1-to-1 match. Let's see how successful you were in this guessing game. The collective 12 dots patterns that you see here represent 12 star patterns. Collectively, these star patterns are known as the zodiac. The term zodiac is one that you'll want to include in your notebook for success on the celebration of knowledge. Zodiac is very loosely translated from Chinese, meaning circle of animals. So zodiac. The star images that make up the zodiac were not chosen because of their location, as they're not very easily found in the night sky due to the fact they're not very bright. The reason that these 12 star stories were created was because of patterns. The way in which the year would progress for us on Earth with this background of stars. And these were the patterns that were then passed on by generations through oral histories. Our modern star pattern system comes to us from the ancient Greeks. The oldest description of the star patterns as we know them comes from a poem, Phenomenon, written about 270 before the Common Era and by the Greek poet Aries. However, it is clear from the poem the star patterns mentioned originated long before Aries' time. No one is sure exactly where, when, or by whom they were invented, but it is thought they originated with the ancient Babylonians and Sumerians. So the great original cultures in the Fertile Crescent, encompassed by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. So, being over 2,000 years apart, separated from these original stories, we often look up at the night sky and think, ooh, how on earth do they see a lion out of that? How on earth is that a giraffe? So we need to be mindful not to be too harsh of astronomy critics. I give it 3.5 stars. Now, my early days of teaching astronomy, late 90s, early 2000s, I did not have to go over the mythos associated with the Greek legends and the stars, because There was this television series, Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, that students watched, and so they would educate me on the ins and outs of the Greek stories. And then one of the first shows to have a spin-off, Hercules, the very first spin-off was Xena, Warrior Princess. So lots of hours of television you can catch up in the name of astronomy. Avoid doing chores for the benefit of learning your Greek mythology. Probably a little bit more than the Greek mythology you may currently have in your mind thanks to the Disney Hercules. Let's see how you fared. The important thing for you in your notebook is to have what the star pattern is actually called. So you want to make sure that in the rectangle 1, you have that this is Aquarius. And for the bragging rights, letter K. It shouldn't be too terribly surprising that any culture that has been on planet Earth has great regard for water and has some sort of deity or high reverence for water and those that watch over the water. We're going to look at the Greek mythologies of the 12 zodiac star patterns and the Greek story of Aquarius. The young man is Ganymede, a handsome youth who was a favorite of Zeus. Ganymede, a prince of Troy, was known for his beauty. Looking down on the earth from heaven, Zeus saw him as he was herding sheep and was pleased. Zeus turned himself into a great black eagle. What animal would you want to transform yourself into at whim? Zeus turned himself into a great black eagle, flew down from heaven in one straight swoop, and grabbed Ganymede, carrying him off to the palace of the gods. The king of Troy lamented the loss of his son, but Zeus appeared to him in a dream, saying, I'm sure it's a direct quote, Ganymede is living happily in the palace of the gods. Stop your lament and look up into the sky. When the king looked up, he saw the form of his beloved son shining in a star pattern of the water carrier. The image you see here of Aquarius is what I like to refer to as the flashcard image. If you were to look in a search engine of your choice for Aquarius star pattern, you would likely see this. There's no rules that say you have to draw the lines in that particular way to perceive Aquarius. You do need to call that section of the night sky Aquarius. So your wonderful go-to astronomy answer will be most helpful of right there. So where's Aquarius? Right there. Here's another rendering of Aquarius. It's the same stars in the night sky area of Aquarius, but connected a little more like a water bearer. Another rendering of Aquarius. Aquarius. Perhaps our modern eyes would look up to the night sky and see Aquarius as Pizza Major. Now we'd still have to call it Aquarius, but we could interpret it as we like. It's a t-shirt I have that as a bonus glows in the dark. You have to love the details. Pterodactyl with a machine gun. Sagittarius 2, this time it's personal. Mind-blowing stars made of stars. And they even had a nice Utah one in the center. There's this book by H.A. Rey called The Stars, A New Way to See Them. H.A. Rey, more famous amongst the populace for his work for a very famous character. And I'll give you a hint as to who H.A. Rey developed. Yep, Curious George. H.A. Rey also wrote this book for young adults to help find the star patterns a little easier in the night sky. But the following images are going to be taken from H.A. Rey book, The Stars. So here's the flashcard, typical way that you will see Hercules rendered. And Rey has just taken the same area of the night sky we refer to as Hercules and reconnected the lines so it looks more like a warrior rather than post-battle warrior. The whale. Less like a winged horse here than this one certainly. We at least get the sense of 4 legs and something interesting about our horse. Of course, this is a significant moment in your astronomy careers when you recognize that this is a situation that here's your expectation to look in the night sky for Pegasus when reality is this is Pegasus in the night sky. So anytime I have little Curious George ready to go to space, this is the Rey rendering. Now there's a lot of apps that you can purchase for night sky observing. And one of the features in many of these is to select whether you want the ray diagrams. And people often avoid this, thinking maybe it's some physics term, ray diagrams, but it's R-E-Y, ray diagram for the author. And what you're doing when you select you want the ray diagram options is you'd rather see things the way Ray visualized them in this book, H.A. Ray, than the flashcard version. Item 2. This is Pisces. For your bragging rights, letter G. And you'll see here, one rendering is the two fish together by their tails, or two fish circling one another. So lots of variations in how this is interpreted. The two fish in Pisces are actually two well-known Greek gods in another form. Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, and her child Aries, the god of teenage infatuation. They were walking happily together along the bank of the river Euphrates. Suddenly there appeared the monster Typhon, a notorious villain in Greek myths. Startled, the two sprang into the river, changed into fish, and swam away as fast as they could. The goddess Athena saw them and replaced them in the heavens in the form of two fish linked by a ribbon. So here's the classic rendering of Pisces. Where might Pisces be in the night sky? Of course, right there. And we've only got one of the fish highlighted here in this screen capture of the night sky. And then Ray's rendering, not too very different from the classic rendering. Item 3, the 3 old dots to work with. Clearly, that's Aries the ram. I know you all have letter E. The king of Thebes had 2 children with his queen, but his heart was captivated by the beautiful Ino. So he decreed a divorce and took Ino as his new queen. The stepmother Ino attempted to remove the prince Phrixus and the princess Helle by starting a false prophecy that they should be killed. The poor harvest is a sign that Zeus is angry. These 2 must be put to the sword as a sacrifice to appease Zeus. The people were taken in by the false prophecy and tried to sacrifice the 2 children. Zeus took pity on the 2 children and saved them by sending a golden ram that had the power of flight. The golden fleece of this ram later became one of the treasures of the kingdom of Colchis. It was this golden fleece that the Greek hero Jason sought when he set out on his epic journey recounted in the tale of the Argo expedition. You're probably familiar with the legend of Jason and the Argonauts. This is one of the great things about the zodiac, in that the ancient cultures were trying to not only come up with legends about each of these, but an entire mythos that connected each one of these, so that those recognizable patterns could more easily be carried down through the traditional oral history from generation to generation. So think how difficult it would be not just to come up with a story about these dots, but then to make this story connected to this one, and there's this overall story that can be passed on. So your typical flashcard rendering of Aries, clearly right there. Aries, Aries, Aries. Aries with the great green fly, wasp. It's only 4-legged, so probably not a true insect. Ray's rendering is slightly different in that it's not just the 3 dots. He broadens the area of the night sky that he pulls in stars from. So it's still in the area of the night sky called Aries. He just pulls in more dots, more stars to represent a sort of ram-like creature, at least more so than the 3 dots.